Hello YouTube, Bane666 here. So anyway, the last two episodes in this series have focused on Go Fem Yourself, and I still have another video of hers to do which I'm going to leave till a later date because I don't want too much Go Fem Yourself in a row. And that other video is fairly dense, it's fairly long, and it'll probably take a couple of videos to get through. So I'm going to leave that for now. And I have something different for you today. Now, before I get to the video, I have something I need you to do. And trust me, I'm asking you to do this for your own good. In a minute, I want you to pause the video. I want you to get a glass. I want you to fill it with alcohol and sit it next to you because you're going to need it. In fact, you might want to bring the bottle with you. Just a word of advice because you're going to need something strong to drink. This is going to be an experience. In fact, the video I'm going through today, I've only watched once before, and it was mid-October. And it left me fairly stunned. Some of the claims in it are so bizarre and just so devoid of reality that I was stunned. And I haven't watched it since because I want to try to recapture what I went through when I first saw it. So I want it to be fairly fresh. Even though I've seen it once before, right? But, you know, it was over a month ago. So, now, having said that, there's probably going to be a fair amount of pauses when I'm responding. And that's because I'll be left speechless. Now, normally I would edit these out, but I just want to leave them in, or at least some of them in, just to really capture what I'm thinking. Because, yeah, this is going to leave you speechless. And I'm not exaggerating, please. Don't think I'm exaggerating. Now, I should point out, by the way, that the person in this video seems to be a really nice person. She seems to be fairly genuine, and she's nothing like Steve Shives or Go Fem Yourself or who else has been featured in this series, PZ Myers, or, you know, those type of people. She seems like a really, really nice person. Having said that, though, her level of ignorance when it comes to gender politics is just astounding. It's mind-boggling. Yeah, and I want to look at this video for two main reasons. The first one is the fact that she's of the school that women always have it worse, even when reality would tell you otherwise, right? Women still always have it worse. And, you know, this is all driven by the patriarchy, which oppresses women, and you get the idea. You've heard all the excuses before. The second reason I want to look at this video is because she is completely ignorant of men and men's issues. Just no fucking understanding of what it's like to be a man in the real world. She assumes that there are standards put on women that are not put on men for some reason. Men get a free pass, right? And it's just mind-boggling how anyone could think this. You'll see what I mean when we get into it. Trust me, you'll need that drink at various points. And the only explanation of that I can come up with is just complete ignorance about what it's like to be a man. In fact, ignorant isn't the word, right? It's not extreme enough. What's a more extreme word than ignorant? Oblivious. She's completely oblivious to men and their issues. Now, just before I get into the video, there is something I want to very quickly read you, and this was in the description of the video. She says, reasons why women talk about hardships they face that are non-existent in men's lives. Now, that's very, very important. She is making the point that these issues not only affect women more, but only affect women. They're non-existent in men's lives whatsoever, which is just the most astounding claim as you'll see as we get into this video. Anyway, without any further delay, let's get stuck into it. And you better have that fucking drink ready. Trust me.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Silver, and today I'm going to be talking about women. Women talk a lot about how our lives are harder than men's. And we face a lot of opposition from people who don't really understand why we feel that way. So today I'm going to be going over reasons why women's lives are a little bit harder than men. All of the most powerful and successful countries in the world have societies that run on patriarchal ideas.
The patriarchy, the go-to argument of every feminist everywhere. Their version of the Illuminati did it.
I think it's because our primary social hierarchy structures are fundamentally masculine.
And that's not the patriarchy.
Well, it's not the modern idea of the patriarchy, that's for sure.
I mean, that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
A very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
But I could say equally well that most rape victims are women. You know, terrible things happen to people of both sexes.
And you could say that with perfect utility, but that doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of a male-dominated patriarchy. Well, it just means that terrible things happen to both genders, which they certainly do.
So, obviously, I don't believe in the patriarchy, but her claim is an interesting one. She says that all the most powerful and successful countries in the world are run on patriarchal principles. Well, if that was true, if that is in fact the case, then wouldn't patriarchy be a good thing? Wouldn't that be a successful model for societies if it's made them the most powerful and successful? Just a question. I mean, like I said, I don't believe in the patriarchy, but if I were to play devil's advocate for a minute, it's not really a good argument to say that patriarchy is bad and it results in the most successful and powerful countries in the world. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you won't need that drink yet. This is just standard feminist stuff right now, but we're about to get into the crazy shit any second. In
the world.
I mean us, yeah.
I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for what I have, but to me the project of politics is...
construction of a tyrannical patriarchy. You're grateful for the productions of a tyrannical patriarchy. How does that make sense?
Because I think life is good. I think it could be better. That's what being
fine.
A progressive
That's a perfectly
means.
Reasonable proposition.
But I guess
that isn't commensurate with your claim that you're the beneficiary of a tyrannical patriarchy.
Why not?
How can it be good if it's the consequence of a tyrannical patriarchy? Tyranny isn't good, is it? I mean, that's the definition of tyranny. Something that isn't good, and yet it's produced all these things that you're grateful for. Like, doesn't that contradiction bother you? Where did what was good come from?
I think I'm benefiting actually from a lot of things that I don't support, that are unearned privileges in my life. I think that's absolutely true.
Like your job?
Like I have a very good job. I had a loving family. Well, I don't think that's going to do the world any good, is it?
That's a hell of a fine rationalization for your privileged position.
Oh, well, fair enough. But, if
you could trade it off with someone who's less privileged.
I could.
That'd be a start.
I could do that, but I don't want to, and I won't, and I don't think I should be expected to.
Why not? Is it okay for you to occupy a position of privilege in the patriarchal tyranny? And if it is it because you're female, or is it just because it's convenient?
That means men hold almost all of the power, and women are mostly excluded from it.
Yeah, except that's not the case, is it? I mean, if you're talking about Western democracies, and if you're talking about the most successful and powerful countries in the world, that would be Western democracies, then men do not hold all the power. In fact, women make up the majority of the voting bloc. Now, it is true that there are more male politicians in government, but that's because less women go into politics. And just because there's more men in power, that does not mean that they are governing purely for men. In fact, as you've seen in probably dozens of videos I've made in the past, male politicians will bend over backwards to give things to female voters that they don't give to males. The government is extremely female-centric, even though it's made up mainly of males. Next.
Women are constantly told to be nice. They are told that they can't show their emotions, they can't cry, they can't show anybody their pain.
Are you fucking joking? You can't be serious. I know this isn't a troll. I know this isn't like a send-up of feminist talking points. I know she's serious, but it's amazing. It really is. It amazes me that she thinks that we live in a society where women are prevented from showing their emotions, that they aren't allowed to cry. You can't be fucking serious. There's a part of my brain at this moment which is screaming that this has to be a Poe, but I know it's not. That's the really confusing thing. How can you think that, though? How can you think that women are the ones in society that aren't allowed to show their emotions? In fact, feminists routinely say that men aren't allowed to show their emotions and should express their emotions more like women. I mean, every time we bring up the high male suicide rate, that's the standard response, right? Oh, to fix the male suicide rate, men just need to be able to express their emotions more like women. But apparently, women aren't allowed to show their emotions. Just, it's astounding. It really is. But she does have some examples, and I do want to spend a little bit of time going through these examples because they really are special. So she has 3 comments. So there's no link in the description, so I have no idea where she got these from. The first one is an anonymous. I'm assuming it's an anonymous comment because it doesn't have a name. To Esquire magazine in 1991. Nice and current, I see. And it says, you know, it really doesn't matter what they write as long as they've got a young and beautiful piece of arse. Well, yeah, that's that's a comment either made by a troll way back in 1991 or an asshole. Yep, that's one comment by one idiot. I can find you literally hundreds of comments about men which are negative, made by feminist after feminist. In fact, many of them are actually paid to make those negative comments. Just go have a look at Clementine Ford. Read anything written by the likes of her. You'll find that is 100 times more hateful than that one anonymous comment from 1991. All right, so let's look at the next one. There was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. To CNN, referencing Fox News debate moderator Megyn Kelly in 2015. Okay, so we have no context, but I'm assuming it was some kind of debate and it got heated and she got angry and someone commented on it. What is wrong with that? Do you think males in the media, on television or in politics or wherever, when they get heated and angry, that they don't get comments like that? Do you think this is exclusively to women? Are you living in the real world? For fuck's sake. You don't think a male in the media, in the media spotlight, has never got a fucking negative comment? Go have a look at some of the things said to Paul Elam Okay, next comment. This is to New York Magazine in 1992. Once again, nice and current. It's got, women, you have to treat them like shit. Yep. Okay. Maybe, once again, a troll or an asshole from almost 30 years ago. So what? I can find you a million comments like that on the internet about men. There are a dime a dozen. How is this preventing women from expressing their emotions? And how are how's the first or the last comment even related to emotions? The middle one I can kind of understand, because clearly Megyn Kelly was angry. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. Like I said, there's not the full context. But if a media personality gets angry on television or wherever, of course people are going to comment on it. Once again, this is not something exclusively to women. It wasn't done because she's a woman. Now, she does have some more evidence, and I use that term, evidence, very, very lightly. You might want to reach for that bottle and top up your drink right about now. Just a warning. So we have 8 examples here of women not being allowed to express their emotions. Okay, so the first one is don't be bossy. Okay, is bossy an emotion? I'm not sure if that's actually an emotion. But look, there are people who are bossy, and it's a legitimate fucking comment to tell them not to be fucking bossy. Especially kids. And that, once again, goes for males and females, not exclusively to females. People don't tell women exclusively not to be bossy. Alright, so number 2. Your dad will have to chase the boys away when you're older. What the fuck does that have to do with emotions? How is that preventing women from expressing emotions? Can someone please explain that to me? By all means, please explain it to me in the comment section, because I'm confused by that. As I am by the next one. Number 3. You look so pretty. Telling someone they look so pretty is stopping them from expressing their emotions? Telling someone they look pretty is preventing women from crying in public? I'm not exactly sure how that works. Number 4. He picks on you because he likes you. Yet, once again, nothing to do with emotions. But wait until you see the next one. Have a drink, guys. Trust me. Trust me before I get to the next one. Have a big swig of alcohol. You're going to need it. The next one is, you need to wax your eyebrows. Oh, I'm sorry. I just lost it there for a second. I'm not exactly sure how telling someone to wax their eyebrows is preventing them from expressing their emotions, but Number 6, I have to keep going. Number 6, don't wear that to school. You're going to distract the boys. Yep, once again, nothing to do with emotions. Number 7, oh, you like video games. The boys must love that. Once again, nothing to do with emotions or expressing emotions. Number 8, oh, I love this one. This one's great. Don't be a slut. Is being a slut now an emotion? I have to ask, because, sometimes I get a bit busy and I miss out on the latest trends on the internet. I've been quite busy this month, so I may have missed it. Is being a slut now an emotion? It seems to be. As confusing as that is. And we go on to the last example. No guy wants to have sex with a virgin. Well, not only has that nothing to do with emotions, but it is also completely wrong. In fact, I've seen feminists criticize guys before because they wanted to have sex with a virgin, because they wanted to find a virgin to marry. Apparently they were sexist pigs. And of course they were falsely called MRAs, even though they had no connection to the men's rights movement whatsoever. But apparently they're sexist pigs for wanting to marry virgins, yet at the same time we're told that no guy wants to have sex with a virgin. It seems that you can't win either way. Well, I have to say, those were some really spectacular examples. She clearly put a great deal of effort into finding them and presenting them, complete with non-existent links in the description, as always. She is doing fine work so far. And I think we should continue because it really doesn't get any better than this.
This has created a toxic society where women are unable to speak up and men are unable to understand where women are coming from and why they are unhappy.
Oh, the irony. She says women aren't allowed to speak up, yet here she is being a woman who is speaking up. I'm surprised she hasn't been arrested. Where is the patriarchy? This is clearly the patriarchy asleep at the wheel, because we have a woman here expressing herself and she hasn't been dragged off in chains yet. And the video's been up over a month, so, come on, patriarchy, get your fucking act together. But the other ironic thing about this is that she claims that we just don't have any clue about, women. Which is strange, because society is fucking filled with women talking about their emotions and their needs and their opinions. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, it's just an observation. I don't know how you can say that doesn't exist. Yet at the same time, clearly she has no fucking idea what it's like to be a man. She seems to be under the impression that men just express their opinions and emotions and cry at a drop of the hat, and society doesn't have any issue with that. Very strange.
Whether they are writers, CEOs, or surgeons, women always have to prove that they are intelligent.
I told you you would need that bottle. So apparently, whether they're writers, CEOs, or surgeons, women have to prove that they're intelligent. Because apparently males in those positions don't have to prove that they're intelligent, right? I mean, they just let any male perform surgery, right? I mean, come on, let's face it. There are male brain surgeons who have an IQ of about, 85. And apparently they do fine, because the patriarchy. It's not like male surgeons have to pass any exams or go through any training, which takes years. Of course not. They don't have to prove that they're intelligent, because they have a penis. I should put out one thing, and that is, she said, writers. Now, if we're talking specifically about journalism, I would say that having a low IQ is probably a requirement I mean, have you read a lot of the articles online? Clearly, proving you're intelligent is not a fucking requirement to be a journalist. As for a CEO, well, you would hope that they're intelligent. If they're not, then their business is going to go under, and they'll probably be removed from that position pretty fucking quickly. Once again, regardless of whether they're male or female. Now, she does give us another piece of evidence, so let's have a look at this evidence, because it's... I mean, she did such a good job last time. I'm sure this is of equal quality. Okay, so it's a capture of a Twitter conversation with J.K. Rowling, the creator of Harry Potter, and there is someone called Harry Potter Fans who is disagreeing with her and telling her that she's wrong about a particular thing. And then someone's pointing out to Harry Potter fans that the person they are responding to is the writer-creator of Harry Potter. So what can be concluded from this this conversation, this piece of evidence? Well, I think the clearest thing is that Harry Potter Fans is either a troll or a complete fucking idiot. But nowhere does it mention J.K. Rowling's gender. How is this proof that women have to prove that they're intelligent in ways that men don't? You don't think fans disagree with male authors? You don't think there are moron fans of male authors? I'm pretty sure there are. And if we go and have a look at that Twitter account, it has, let's see, 5 tweets. A total of 5 tweets. It was started in Feb of 2012, and it has a total of 5 tweets in late Feb 2012. That's it. I wonder if it's a troll account. That might not be a troll account. It could just, like I said, could just be a moron. Yeah, plenty of them on the internet. We shouldn't be surprised. Next.
They also have to prove that they are capable of maintaining the position of power that they have.
They have to prove that they're capable of maintaining the position of power that they have. Unlike men, right? Because when a male politician is elected to power, that's for life. See, I didn't know that, but apparently that's what happens under the patriarchy. When a male politician's elected to power, that's for life. He doesn't have to continually prove that he's a good politician, and he doesn't have to get people to vote for him and keep him in power. He just stays there forever until he dies. Because patriarchy, right? I mean, that sounds like a pretty good representation of reality.
Until today, women are still fighting for their basic rights, whether that's birth control, abortion, or maternity leave.
Women are fighting for their basic human rights. Like, let me think. Bodily integrity. Oh, hold on. No, women already have the right to bodily integrity. That's something that men don't have, right? But I'm betting that's never crossed her mind. So she does give us 3 examples. She says birth control, abortion, and maternity leave. So let's start with what's probably the simplest of the 3, and that is maternity leave. Now, if you want to be technical, yes, men don't have maternity leave because they're not women. And for the record, I'm talking about biological sex, not gender. Just before anyone comments in the comment section, we're talking about individuals who are born with a penis, just to be 100% clear. So, yes, it is true, men don't have maternity leave. However, men do have paternity leave, if they're lucky.
An employee at JP Morgan Chase is actually suing his employer because he believes the paternity leave or paternal leave is biased against men and also against women. So let me explain. The man at the center of this is Derek Rotondo. And he claims, that is an interesting photo of him, but he claims that, there is this unfair practice at JP Morgan Chase where women luckily will get paid maternal leave. They can leave for about 16 weeks and it will be paid for. It's incredible. However, men only get 2 weeks of paid leave. And if they are the primary caretaker of the child, they have to go through quite a bit to prove it. Okay, so let me give you some of the details on that. So he filed a federal sex discrimination complaint on Thursday, accusing the bank of discriminating against fathers by giving them paid paternal leave on different terms than mothers based on the stereotype that women should care for children. JP Morgan gives women 16 weeks of paid leave, while fathers only get 2 weeks. Fathers must show that either their partner has returned to work or is medically incapable of caring for the child to get the 16 weeks of leave. Here's the thing. Why don't you just give men and women 16 weeks of leave? Like, why? I get it. They don't want people to leave. They don't want to have to pay for individuals who aren't at work. But this notion that the woman is the primary caretaker and the guy is the one who needs to earn the money is ridiculous, because society's changing, things are evolving, and men are becoming more and more involved in raising kids, right? And also another thing is this annoying assumption that a woman or a man can just do it by themselves. Having a baby is one of the most overwhelming things on the planet. And so if I have a baby, I don't want to sit at home and try to figure it all out by myself. I'd like my partner to be there with me.
Sure.
It's just, I think that this is an interesting lawsuit. I'm curious to see how it plays out. But if you want to look to some precedent on this matter, Time Warner Inc. actually changed its paid paternal leave policies in 2014 after a former CNN reporter filed a complaint with the EEOC targeting a policy that he said gave 10 weeks of leave to mothers and parents who adopted, but only 2 weeks to biological fathers.
Welcome back. With Father's Day right around the corner, a new study by Boston College reveals that more and more dads want to be present and involved from the first day of their children's lives, and then like their bosses to provide it through parental leave. And some dads even want extended paid time off. But will companies get on board with this? I am so excited to have with us today, weighing in, Dr. Brad Harrington. He's the executive director at the Boston College Center for Work and Family. It's now the country's go-to place for this kind of information. There's a hotbed of controversy around this issue. So, Dr. Harrington, how many companies now offer paternal leave?
So on average, what we're able to estimate is about 15 to 20% of companies offer some form of paid parental leave aimed at dads.
So, Dr. Harrington, this has been an issue. This controversy about why don't dads get time off from work has been out there I think since the Clinton administration. I remember it popping up in the mid-90s. But on average right now, how much paternal leave do dads now take?
Well, we did a survey, and we had about 1,000 dads participate in the survey. And the one thing that we found was that the survey we did, a lot of very progressive companies were engaged in that. So about 2/3 of the fathers had access to paid paternity leave. And of those 2/3, virtually all of the fathers took advantage of the paid paternity leave policies that their organization had. And when we asked the fathers whether they had paid leave or not within their organization, was that something that they think organizations should provide, 99% of the fathers said yes. And we also asked them if they were looking for a new employer and thought they might have another child, would that be an important criteria, that is the availability of paid paternity leave, would that be an important criteria for their future employer? And the answer was yes.
All right, let me just...
Yeah.
Because men don't get paternity leave at the same levels that women get maternity leave, at least in most places. I'm sure there are some places that have equal amounts of maternity and paternity leave, although I think they're pretty few and far between. So this is an area where men have actually fallen behind. Well, I say fallen behind, but in reality we've always been behind. And giving men equal amount of paternity leave that women get maternity leave would be beneficial for everyone. It would encourage men to take time off work and spend with their families, which is healthier. It would enable the wife to go to work, which would help her career. if that's what she chooses to do, of course. There are many women who choose not to, which is an option that most men don't have. But remember, these are areas in which women are disadvantaged, not men, right? As for birth control, well, this is another topic I've covered to death in the past, so I'm not going to go through it in great detail here. But let's see, what are some of the options that women have when it comes to birth control? Well, they have the pill. You can also get a monthly injection. You can get an implant under the skin, which slowly releases the hormones in the pill over a period of years. So, you go to the doctor, you get it, and it lasts, I think, 3 years or something. And then you don't have to worry about it again. You can get an IUD, you can get your tubes tied, you can have the morning after pill, there's female condoms, and I'm sure there's at least a couple that I've forgotten there. But lots and lots of options. If you do happen to get pregnant, you can have an abortion. Now, if you don't want to have an abortion, you can have the child, and you can leave the child at a baby Moses or safe haven or a baby box, usually without the permission of the father. In some places you're meant to gain the permission of the father, but because it's anonymous, let's be realistic, the father's not going to have a say in it. So there is a vast number of options available to women when it comes to reproduction. What about men? What do men have? Well, you can get a vasectomy. Probably not a good option at 18. That is, if you want to have kids later in life. And there's condoms. That's about it, really, isn't it? I mean, you can not have sex. That's an option. But even then, you might be unlucky and someone puts your name down on a fucking birth certificate and you have to try to prove that you're not the father. That has happened before. Which brings me to my next point. If a woman gets pregnant, she has all the options. She can choose to abort the child. She can choose to have the child and keep the child. She can choose to have the child and give the child away without the permission of the father. Men have basically zero options here. They're stuck with whatever the woman decides. So once again, this is an area where men have fallen behind women or are behind women. Women have all the advantages. This is not something where women are disadvantaged and men are advantaged. I don't know how anyone who has looked at this in any fucking way can come to that conclusion. So on to the most complex one, which is abortion. Now, obviously, abortion is something which only affects women. That is, it's women who can only have an abortion. And because of that, this is seen as a gender issue. And it is, in a sense, that it only affects women. But the argument that's used is those who are against abortion are that way because it only affects women. And if it somehow affected men, then there would be, different laws, etc., etc. This is absolute fucking bullshit. Let's say in 50 years they invent an artificial womb, and I'm not talking about an external one, but something grown from stem cells or something which can be surgically implanted into a man so he can carry a fetus to term. It's possible. I know we're not there yet, and it's probably a long, long way off, but for the sake of argument, let's say in 50 years that becomes a reality. And let's say there's a particular man who has the artificial womb implanted, and he has an embryo implanted into that womb, and he's carrying that child, and he decides that he's made a mistake and he wants an abortion. Do you think those people who are anti-abortion are going to be okay with it? Do you think they're going to say, oh, well, he's a man, so I guess we'll let him have an abortion, but, as long as we keep it away from the women, right? Of course not. Those same people that see abortion as murder now will see abortion as murder then. The fact that it's a man carrying the child will have no consequence to their opinion. It won't change it in any fucking way whatsoever. And for the record, and I've said this 100 times before, but I'll say it again. For the record, I'm pro-choice. Just so you know.
All of these things give women the basic rights of the power to choose, the ability to live our lives beyond kids and family, and sexual freedom.
And if you're a man and the condom breaks or your partner lies about being on birth control and she gets pregnant and she decides to have the child, you have absolutely no fucking choice whatsoever. She, on the other hand, has all the fucking choice in the world. Like I said earlier, including giving the child away without the permission of the father, using a baby box or the baby Moses laws or the safe haven laws, depending where you are.
Unlike anyone else, women are usually guilty until proven innocent.
What? What the fuck did she just say? Oh, fuck. I did warn you. I did warn you that you would need to drink while watching this. She just said, unlike anyone else, women are guilty until proven innocent. That is just astounding. That is amazing, considering the accusations coming out of the Me Too movement and the state of Title IX in universities, where men are being kicked out of universities left, right and centre based on nothing but an accusation. No evidence needed whatsoever. That is just astounding that she thinks that women are guilty until proven innocent. And remember, folks, remember what I read to you at the start. These are reasons why women talk about hardships they face that are non-existent in men's lives. Apparently men aren't considered guilty until proven innocent. Apparently that's not a thing. That's something that affects women exclusively. That is just astounding.
We can see that throughout the countless trials where women accused men of sexually assaulting them or raping them, where the judge ended up siding with the man and giving him a lenient sentence.
Oh, yes, of course, because, you know, women never get lenient sentences for rape, do they? No, that has never happened. They get very, very serious sentences all the time. Just like for other crimes, right? But let's look at that last picture she put up. It's of Judge Kavanaugh and Ford, of course. Why am I not surprised? Of course, this is a case where Judge Kavanaugh was accused without any evidence whatsoever, apart from testimony which was, from memory, I think 36 years old. But apart from that testimony, there was no evidence whatsoever. And in fact, the fourth accusation turned out to be a complete fabrication. It's strange that the media is not talking about that. Apparently the woman who made the accusation has never even met Judge Kavanaugh. Surprise, surprise. The third accusation was also so fucking ludicrous that I don't know how anyone could take it seriously. If the woman who made it was actually telling the truth, her name was Swetnick, by the way, if she was telling the truth, she would have to be a fucking sociopath. I covered that recently in another video, so I'm not going to go into it yet again. But the other two accusations, 30 to 40 years old and involving alcohol, and no other evidence whatsoever apart from the accusation. Yet many people were happy to say that Judge Kavanaugh was guilty. No trial, no due process, guilty as accused. Which is strange, considering apparently that doesn't happen to men. Apparently that's something that happens exclusively to women. And need I point out that Judge Kavanaugh, the Kavanaugh case, is an extremely bad example of men getting lenient sentences, considering he didn't even go to fucking trial. Probably not the best example, right? Next.
Finally, the last reason is the idea that women's rights are just that, women's rights. They don't affect anybody else, which is largely false. Women's rights affect men just as much as they affect women. Before women were able to work, men had to work and provide for their entire family. Now, most families have two sources of income instead of one.
Yes, and in the majority of cases, when that couple start having children, the wife will stay at home and the husband will work extra hours or extra shifts to pay the lost income from the wife. Once again, an equal amount of paternity and maternity leave would be a good thing. This is an area where men have fallen behind. It's a men's issue that you should be talking about if you actually care about equality like you claim. But instead, you're totally fucking ignorant of that, aren't you? Hasn't even crossed your mind. Just unbelievable.
Which lowered the stress on men. Another reason is men who don't want to have kids, just like women. When women are unable to have birth control or abortion rights, then they are forced to have kids. And when they are forced to have kids, the men are forced to have kids too.
Yes, and men are forced to have kids regardless. If a woman gets pregnant, be it by accident or whether she's lied to her partner about being on birth control, the man is still responsible for the child, even if he didn't want that child to begin with. However, as I said earlier, the woman has the right for paternal surrender. She can leave the baby in a baby box or a safe haven or one of those baby Moses places, which is usually a fire station or a police station or a hospital. So she has paternal surrender rights. He doesn't. This is not equality. This is not somewhere where women have fallen behind. This is an area where men have always been behind. You've got it fucking backwards.
Not only does that affect the men, but it also affects the children. All of these reasons are cause for everyone to be involved in women's rights. Being a feminist means that you believe, truly believe, in the equality between men and women.
And see, this is my problem with feminism. It claims to be about equality between the genders, but it only looks at things in a certain way. Through a feminist lens, it looks at things in such a biased fashion that it's so distorted that they're blind to men's issues. They're blind to the way that things affect men. I mean, to honestly think that men do not have to be intelligent to be a fucking surgeon and to prove that they're intelligent. What kind of reasoning comes up with that? And to think that women are guilty until proven innocent. I mean, that just goes in the face of reality. It's the exact opposite of what's fucking happening in the world. Or that women aren't allowed to show their emotions in public. For fuck's sake. The only way that you can come to these conclusions is if you're totally blind to reality. And that you've swallowed the feminist Kool-Aid and you believe that in every fucking circumstance, no matter what, women are disadvantaged. This is like someone looking at the statistics for workplace deaths, and she sees that 7% of workplace deaths are women, and concludes somehow that only women die at work, and then says something like, well, if men were dying in those numbers, something would be done about it, and completely ignoring the fact that 93% of workplace deaths are actually male. That's the level of ignorance, of blindness that we're dealing with here. And it's frustrating, especially considering she seems like a really nice person. I don't think she has any bad intentions. I don't think she's trying to, hate men or anything like that we see with so many other feminists. She seems like an actual nice person, but the level of blindness and ignorance is so frustrating. It really is. And I don't know if someone like that can actually be reached. That's the sad part about it.
It does not mean that you hate the government or you hate men. It just means that you want to see a world where both men and women are equal, fully equal. I don't want to end this video on a bad note. Women have a lot of rights now that they didn't have before, which is fantastic. It is a step forward, but that doesn't mean that we should stop. And this doesn't only include women. Men, we need you. For all the women who can't speak up, men have to speak up for them. Since all of these rights are for both of us, we should both speak up. This should no longer be women's rights. It should be everyone's rights. It should be equality for everyone.
Well, that was an interesting journey. We learnt a lot, I think. We learnt that only bad things happen to women, and if they happen to men, then that they don't count for some reason. Hashtag feminism is equality. Now, hopefully you're not too drunk, or maybe I should say hopefully you are, because it would have made that experience a lot easier, I imagine. Now, just before I go, I've got one thing to ask, and that is, if you do go to her video and you do leave a comment, please do not be abusive. Like I've said throughout the video, she seems like a really nice person with the best intentions. She's not an asshole, so please do not leave any abusive comments. If you leave a comment, make sure it's well thought out and it's a sane, logical argument, preferably with evidence. And who knows, maybe she's reachable. Probably not. She's probably too entrenched into her ideology, but you never know. And you stand a much better chance using a reasoned argument rather than abuse. Not that I think most of you would go over there and be abusive, but just in case, please don't do it.
Women are constantly told to be nice. They are told that they can't show their emotions, they can't cry, they can't show anybody their pain.
And the very first thing is, a man's pain is taboo. A man's pain is taboo. You've heard speakers all day today talk about that in certain ways, but a man's pain is taboo. No one wants to touch it. No one wants to hear it. And men are not dumb. They know that. So what are they going to do? Go emote in public? No. They know their pain is taboo. Now, let's do an exercise. I want you to imagine that you're walking into your favorite restaurant. You're walking in your favorite restaurant, you're walking in to get seated, you're thinking, and you look over in the corner, at the corner table, there's a woman. She's crying. What's the first thing you think about with her? Anybody? What's wrong? Poor dear, she's upset, right? I've asked this question to thousands of therapists in the workshops I give. I'm telling you, they all say the same thing. Poor dear, she must have just broken up with someone. She needs support. How can I help, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Erase that image. Go back, you're walking into the same restaurant. You're walking by and you notice over in that corner table, there's a guy and he's crying. What's your first reaction? Get away. Wimp. What else? Drunk, exactly. This is what I hear over and over again. People immediately come up with that. I came up with that, and I was working with them. You know, this is not something that is just a couple of people. This is almost all of us have this bias that's built in that says, man's pain, get away. There's something wrong with that guy. He's probably drunk. You know, so we're all built to not want to get close to men's pain. Men know this. They know it. They know no one wants to hear this crap. In fact, the guys I'd sit with, they'd look at me and they'd say, do you really want to hear this? They couldn't believe that someone would want to listen to their pain. It's sad. So the first thing that tipped me off was that men's pain is invisible because a man's pain is taboo. Now there's another one, the provide and protect rule. Oh boy. So you provide and protect people. Well, guess what? Who's providing and protecting for you? Nobody. Nobody's providing and protecting. Think about, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you and your wife wake up, there's a big noise down in the basement. Boom, something goes. Who's going down to check it out?
Not me.
That's a woman said that. Who's going down to check it out? Guess what? In today's world, women may very well say, I'll go down and check that out. And if she did that, she'd be a hero, right? But women's roles are very flexible these days. She'd not only be a hero, but if she said, honey, I really don't want to do that. Can you go? It'd be fine. Nobody get upset, right? There's no problem. No. How about the guy? If he goes down and checks it out, he's doing his job. Right? That's what he's supposed to do. He is the guy. But if he says, no, honey, I don't want to go, he's a jackass. Can you see the double standard that's going on? Men are expected to never be dependent. Never be dependent. And guess what? You can't emote and not be dependent. The two are linked. They're linked up.